Welcome back to Senior Wisdom Life, where we decode health advice for wiser, stronger aging. Today's video might just change the way you look at your fruit bowl forever. Our title says it all. 7 fruits you thought were healthy may be quietly weakening your legs. Don't let a simple habit become a hidden danger. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why your legs still feel heavy, your knees ache, or your ankles swell, despite eating well, staying active, and doing everything right? It's frustrating, isn't it? You've cut back on salt, you're walking every day, maybe even taking joint supplements. But somehow, you still struggle with balance, fatigue in your legs, or persistent stiffness. What if I told you the problem isn't what you're missing, but something you're already eating every single day with the best of intentions? Let me tell you the story of Helen. She's 68, retired, and living what most would call a healthy lifestyle. She eats clean, exercises regularly, stays hydrated, and follows her doctor's recommendations to the letter. And yet, over a year, she developed worsening knee pain and found herself wobbling on stairs and struggling to rise from chairs. Her scans were normal, her labs were fine, until one simple dietary review revealed the hidden trigger. Her daily plate of healthy fruit, what seemed like an innocent habit, pineapple at breakfast, grapes in the afternoon, orange juice before bed, was gradually fueling inflammation, spiking her blood sugar, and weakening the very muscles and joints she was trying to protect. Here's the truth: some fruits that are great for a 25-year-old body can be downright harmful after 60. Why? Because our metabolism slows, our circulation changes, and even small amounts of sugar or acid can trigger outsized effects like joint inflammation, uric acid buildup, or fluid retention in the legs. That's why what used to be superfoods might now be super risky for your knees, ankles, and hips. In this video, I'll walk you through 7 specific fruits that seniors over 60 should seriously reconsider. I'll break down the science behind the symptoms, show how each fruit interacts with the aging body, and most importantly, give you safe, delicious alternatives that protect your joints and strengthen your legs instead of weakening them. And one more thing, if you've been eating fruit to stay healthy but still feel pain, swelling, or loss of balance creeping in, stay with me until the end. What you learned today might be the missing link in your health journey. Now let's get started with part 1, pineapple, the anti-inflammatory that's fueling your joint pain. Pineapple is one of those fruits that carries a deceptive glow of health, a tropical symbol of vitality and anti-inflammatory goodness, often praised for its content of bromelain, a natural enzyme said to help with swelling, digestion, and joint pain. But for many seniors over 60, this golden fruit may not be as golden as it seems. It might be quietly undermining your leg strength and joint health, all under the guise of being good for inflammation. Let's take a closer look at what's happening beneath that sweet, tangy surface. Bromelain, the celebrated compound in pineapple, is indeed a powerful enzyme. In controlled amounts, it has been used to reduce swelling, improve wound healing, and even alleviate sinusitis. However, its effects on older adults are far more complex, especially for those taking common medications like blood thinners, warfarin, aspirin, clopidogrel, anti-inflammatories, or even certain antibiotics. Bromelain can amplify the effect of these drugs or interfere with how they're metabolized, leading to unintended consequences. In seniors with already thinning blood vessels and fragile capillary walls, this interaction can result in bruising, excessive bleeding, or, more subtly, persistent inflammation in the joints of the knees, ankles, and hips. Beyond bromelain, pineapple is also loaded with natural sugars and fruit acids. While these compounds are harmless to most young, active individuals, they can wreak havoc on older bodies with slower metabolisms and reduced circulation. The high glycemic index of pineapple can cause blood sugar spikes, which in turn fuel chronic low-grade inflammation. for aging legs already dealing with compromised oxygen delivery and sluggish microcirculation. This added stress can lead to the very issues seniors are trying to avoid: tightness in the calves, stiffness in the knees, and that heavy, dragging feeling in the legs after even a short walk. Let me tell you about Charles, a 74-year-old retired carpenter from Oregon. A big believer in natural health, Charles made a habit of eating a cup of fresh pineapple every day after reading that it could help with arthritis. For the first few weeks, he felt no difference, but by the third month, he noticed increasing tightness behind his knees. He chalked it up to aging. By month 6, he could no longer walk to the mailbox without swelling in both legs. His doctor couldn't find anything structurally wrong, but when I reviewed his diet and removed pineapple from his daily routine, replacing it with berries like mulberries and raspberries, his symptoms began to improve within 3 weeks. The inflammation didn't vanish overnight, but the steady decline reversed. So what should seniors eat instead if they want the anti-inflammatory benefits without the risks? Consider berries like mulberries and raspberries. These fruits are not only lower in natural sugars and acids, but they also contain powerful flavonoids, plant compounds that help reduce oxidative stress and protect capillary integrity. They're also kinder to aging kidneys and less likely to spike blood sugar, making them a safer daily fruit for seniors trying to protect their legs, circulation, and joints. And remember, it's not that pineapple is bad. It's that it may no longer be aligned with the needs of an older body. What once helped reduce inflammation in your 30s might now be tipping the scales in the opposite direction at 70. The key isn't to fear fruit, but to respect its chemistry and understand how your body's relationship with food evolves. So if you've been experiencing unexplained stiffness in your knees, swelling in your ankles, or that dull ache after a walk despite doing everything right, don't overlook what's sitting in your fruit bowl. Sometimes the quiet culprits wear the brightest colors. Now, if pineapple, the so-called anti-inflammatory hero, can quietly sabotage your joint health, what about a fruit that's even more beloved, softer, and often marketed as muscle fuel? That brings us to our next surprising chapter, Chapter 2, Bananas, the sweet culprit behind joint swelling and fluid retention. Bananas are often hailed as the ultimate healthy snack, soft, portable, rich in potassium, and praised for preventing muscle cramps and boosting energy. For decades, seniors have been encouraged to include bananas in their diets, especially for heart health and muscle support. But while they may benefit young, active individuals, bananas can behave very differently in aging bodies, particularly for those struggling with heart conditions, insulin resistance, or joint issues. Behind their sweet, creamy texture lies a complex impact on water retention, blood sugar, and joint inflammation, issues that can silently erode leg strength and overall mobility. Let's begin with the effect of bananas on cardiovascular and insulin health. Yes, bananas are rich in potassium, which plays a role in blood pressure regulation and heart function. However, they also contain a significant amount of quickly digestible carbohydrates and natural sugars, roughly 14 grams in a medium banana. For seniors with insulin resistance or prediabetes, these sugars can cause rapid spikes in blood glucose, followed by insulin surges. Over time, this metabolic roller coaster can trigger inflammation in blood vessels, increase water retention, and promote fluid imbalance, especially in the lower limbs where circulation is already compromised by age. More concerning is the silent water-retaining effect bananas have, particularly in older adults who already suffer from mild congestive heart failure or venous insufficiency. The body becomes more prone to holding onto fluid, especially when dietary intake is high in carbohydrates without accompanying fiber or healthy fats. Bananas, especially when consumed alone, can worsen this effect. Seniors may experience swollen ankles, puffiness around the knees, or that familiar heavy, tired sensation in the legs after meals. The discomfort can be subtle at first, tight shoes in the afternoon, a little stiffness getting out of bed, but it often escalates into persistent swelling and dull leg pain. This brings us to an important distinction. Not all bananas are created equal. Green bananas, for example, contain more resistant starch and less sugar, which can be easier on blood sugar levels but harder on digestion. They tend to cause gas and bloating in older adults with slower gut motility. Ripe bananas are higher in sugar, making them more inflammatory and likely to spike glucose. Then there's dried banana, often marketed as a healthy chip or trail mix snack. These are typically loaded with concentrated sugars and may even be coated with additional sweeteners or fried in oil, making them a far cry from the fruit's natural form. Seniors who snack on dried bananas throughout the day are unknowingly delivering sugar bombs to their bloodstream, compounding inflammation and water retention with each handful. Take the case of Linda, a 69-year-old retired teacher who started eating 2 bananas every morning after watching a wellness video promoting their benefits for leg cramps. Within 2 months, Linda noticed her socks leaving deep imprints on her ankles and her knees aching more during afternoon walks. At first, she blamed the weather. Then her doctor suspected arthritis. But when I reviewed her diet and suggested removing the bananas and replacing them with avocado slices and a few walnuts, her symptoms improved dramatically. Within 3 weeks, the swelling subsided, and she was able to walk her usual mile without discomfort. So what are safer, smarter alternatives for seniors who want the nutrient benefits without the downside? Avocados are an excellent substitute. They're low in sugar, high in anti-inflammatory fats, and provide potassium in a form that doesn't spike insulin or trigger water retention. Pairing them with pears, particularly ripe ones rich in fiber, and a few walnuts or chia seeds creates a balanced, satisfying snack that supports circulation and joint health. This combination helps regulate blood sugar, reduce inflammation, and even support collagen production in joints. The takeaway is simple. Bananas aren't inherently bad, but they may not be the best choice for seniors dealing with leg swelling, joint stiffness, or insulin resistance. Choosing fruits that work with your body, not against it, is the key to protecting your independence and mobility as you age. Now, if bananas, so widely praised for muscle support, can quietly contribute to joint pain and swelling, what about a fruit even smaller and more deceptively innocent? Let's take a closer look at Chapter 3, Grapes, the tiny fruit with a big impact on inflammation and joint pain. Grapes often enjoy a halo of health. Small, colorful, and rich in antioxidants, they're frequently marketed as heart-friendly snacks packed with resveratrol, a compound associated with cardiovascular benefits. But for seniors, especially those over 60 dealing with joint pain, poor circulation, or borderline metabolic issues, grapes can carry an unexpected burden. Behind their sweet, juicy appearance lies a dense concentration of fructose and compounds that may worsen inflammation, elevate uric acid, and quietly attack the very joints that seniors rely on to move, balance, and stay independent. Let's start with fructose, the primary sugar found in grapes. Unlike glucose, which is used by nearly every cell in the body, fructose is metabolized almost entirely in the liver. In younger individuals with efficient metabolism, small amounts of fructose can be handled without consequence. But in older adults, especially those with slower liver function or existing insulin resistance, excess fructose is converted into fat and uric acid. The problem, that uric acid doesn't just disappear. It circulates through the bloodstream and begins to crystallize in the joints, particularly in low temperature, low circulation areas like the toes, ankles, and knees. Over time, this leads to gout-like pain, stiffness, and intermittent swelling that can make even the lightest step feel sharp and unstable. This issue is compounded by the fact that grapes are incredibly easy to overeat. Because of their small size and pleasant sweetness, many seniors consume 1 or 2 cups without a second thought, delivering an enormous fructose load in just a few bites. Unlike eating an apple or a pear, there's no natural stopping point. The sugar hits fast, the liver strains to process it, and the byproducts begin to chip away at joint health and metabolic balance. Take Mr. Robert, a 72-year-old avid walker, who started noticing a dull ache in his big toe that gradually turned into nightly stabbing pain. He assumed it was age, or maybe the shoes he'd been wearing. It wasn't until we examined his diet that the pattern emerged. Robert had developed a habit of eating a large bunch of grapes every evening while watching TV. Once we connected the dots and removed the grapes from his routine, replacing them with a handful of blueberries and some almonds, his symptoms started to subside. Within 2 weeks, the nightly pain diminished, and within a month, he was back to his daily walking schedule without limping or discomfort. Another issue with grapes is the myth of their heart health. While red grapes do contain antioxidants like resveratrol, the amount present in a normal serving is far lower than what's needed for therapeutic benefit. Most of the resveratrol hype comes from highly concentrated extracts, not from eating a handful of table grapes. What seniors often get instead is a high-sugar, low-fiber fruit that raises blood sugar and exacerbates inflammation. This is especially risky for those already dealing with circulation issues, as it can lead to fluid retention, tingling in the feet, and delayed healing in the lower limbs. So what's a smarter swap? Berries, especially blueberries and raspberries, offer all the antioxidant benefits without the sugar overload. They're rich in anthocyanins, which help improve blood vessel elasticity, reduce oxidative stress, and support collagen integrity in joints. Plus, their lower fructose content means less burden on the liver and kidneys. Paired with a small handful of walnuts or chia seeds, they also provide sustained energy and anti-inflammatory omega-3s, giving your joints both relief and resilience. In short, grapes may not be the innocent treat they appear to be, especially for seniors struggling with subtle joint issues, foot pain, or swelling. If you've noticed any increase in discomfort around your big toe, a dull ache in your feet after dinner, or stiffness in the morning, consider what you're snacking on in the evening. The solution may not lie in a pill, but in a small change to your fruit bowl. And if these tiny grapes can do this much damage, what about a fruit that seems even more innocent, light, watery, and refreshing, but hiding a dangerously high glycemic punch? Let's move on to Chapter 4, Watermelon, the sweet trap that hijacks blood sugar and exhausts your legs. Watermelon is often seen as the perfect summer fruit, hydrating, low in calories, and naturally sweet. It's served at picnics, added to smoothies, and offered to seniors as a healthy way to cool down and stay refreshed. But for older adults, especially those with prediabetes, poor circulation, or signs of early neuropathy, watermelon can pose a hidden danger. Beneath its innocent, watery texture lies a sugar surge that can strain the circulatory system, trigger inflammatory responses, and silently chip away at leg strength and stability. The issue begins with watermelon's glycemic index, GI. At around 76, it's considered high, meaning that it raises blood sugar quickly after consumption. While younger people may metabolize this surge efficiently, aging bodies, particularly those with reduced insulin sensitivity, respond very differently. The rapid increase in blood glucose leads to an exaggerated insulin release, followed by a crash. This pattern fuels systemic inflammation, impairs capillary function, and over time diminishes blood flow to the extremities. In practical terms, this means tired calves, swelling around the ankles, and slower recovery after physical activity. Insulin spikes aren't just a blood sugar issue. They initiate a cascade of chemical responses in the vascular system, particularly in the microcirculation that feeds joints, muscles, and nerves in the lower limbs. Inflammation becomes more pronounced, oxidative stress builds, and the body's ability to repair minor damage diminishes. For older adults, this translates into heavier legs, persistent joint aches, and an increased risk of balance problems and falls. What seems like harmless indulgence, a few slices of watermelon on a hot day, can quietly contribute to a steady decline in leg health. Let me share the story of Mr. George, an active 76-year-old who enjoyed daily walks in his neighborhood. One summer, he began eating large portions of watermelon each afternoon to cool down and stay hydrated. It seemed like a healthy habit. But over the next 3 months, he noticed growing fatigue in his legs, especially in the late afternoon. His calves began to ache. He found himself needing to sit more often and eventually required a cane for balance. A vascular exam showed nothing alarming, but when we reviewed his diet and removed the daily watermelon, replacing it with ripe pears and a handful of sunflower seeds, his symptoms improved. Within weeks, his energy returned and he was walking unaided again. So what's the alternative for seniors who want hydration without the sugar trap? Ripe pears, particularly when eaten with a small serving of seeds or nuts, provide a mild sweetness, ample fiber, and a slower glucose release. This means a steadier energy curve, less inflammation, and far less strain on the circulatory system. Pears also contain quercetin, a plant compound known for its anti-inflammatory and blood vessel-supporting properties, making them an ideal substitute for anyone concerned about leg swelling, fatigue, or blood sugar instability. Ultimately, watermelon isn't evil, it's just mismatched with the needs of an older metabolism. A fruit that refreshes the young can exhaust the elderly. The key is not to stop eating fruit altogether, but to be more discerning about which fruits support energy, balance, and circulation in aging bodies. And if watermelon, a fruit celebrated for hydration, can do this much damage to the vascular system, imagine what happens when a fruit with even more acidity and less fiber enters the picture. That brings us to our next lesson. Chapter 5, Oranges, the citrus bite that may be fueling chronic joint pain. Oranges have long been a symbol of health, bursting with vitamin C, refreshing to the palate, and promoted in countless wellness campaigns. But for seniors, particularly those over 60 with joint sensitivity, chronic inflammation, or subtle signs of arthritis, oranges may carry an acidic downside. Their bright citrus flavor, while invigorating, is largely due to citric acid, a compound that, in aging bodies, can do more harm than good when consumed excessively or in the wrong form. What starts as a morning ritual, a glass of fresh orange juice or a peeled fruit after breakfast, can quietly become a daily source of joint irritation and inflammatory stress. Citric acid, found abundantly in oranges and other citrus fruits, can irritate already inflamed tissues. While it's naturally occurring and not harmful in moderation, seniors with arthritis or age-related joint degeneration often have compromised cartilage and more sensitive synovial membranes. In these individuals, repeated exposure to acidic compounds may worsen joint discomfort, especially in load-bearing areas like the hips, knees, and lower back. Over time, citric acid can act like fuel on a smoldering fire, igniting stiffness, swelling, and a dull, persistent ache that often gets misattributed to just getting old. This issue is even more pronounced when consuming orange juice, particularly in its concentrated form. Unlike eating the whole fruit, which includes fiber to slow sugar absorption and modulate the acidic impact, Orange juice delivers a rapid influx of both citric acid and natural sugars. That double hit, high acid and quick sugar, is especially tough on aging joints and vascular systems. In seniors with borderline insulin resistance or early signs of metabolic syndrome, it can contribute to systemic inflammation, blood sugar instability, and localized flare-ups in joint pain. Consider the case of Mrs. Sophie, a 67-year-old woman who began her mornings with a tall glass of orange juice every day after hearing it would boost immunity. For months, she felt fine. But over a year, she developed chronic stiffness in her hips and a dull ache in her lower back that made it harder to get out of bed. She tried stretching, changing her mattress, and even undergoing physical therapy with little relief. It wasn't until we reviewed her diet and removed the daily orange juice, replacing it with a few slices of kiwi and warm lemon water, less acidic than it sounds, that her symptoms began to ease. Within 5 weeks, she reported significantly improved mobility and no longer needed to ice her hips after walking. Vitamin C itself is not the enemy. In fact, it plays a crucial role in collagen synthesis, immune support, and antioxidant defense. But the delivery method matters. While oranges do contain vitamin C, they also bring with them high acidity and simple sugars that can tip the scale toward inflammation if consumed carelessly. Seniors would be better served by obtaining their vitamin C from low-acid sources like kiwi, bell peppers, or even berries, all of which deliver this essential nutrient without provoking joint discomfort or spiking blood sugar. The key lesson is not to demonize oranges, but to recognize their impact in the context of aging physiology. What energized you at 30 might inflame you at 70. When joints are already under stress, even a small amount of dietary acid, repeated daily, can accumulate into a chronic problem. Switching to vitamin C-rich, low-acid fruits can reduce this burden, helping your body heal instead of hurt. And if citrus fruits can subtly stir the flames of chronic pain, imagine what can happen when a fruit adds acid and sugar and irritates your muscles at night. That leads us to our next surprising chapter, Chapter 6. Green apples, the silent culprit behind muscle cramping and morning stiffness. Green apples often carry a reputation for being the healthier, less sugary choice compared to their red counterparts. With their crisp texture and tart flavor, they're marketed as a smart snack, low in calories and supposedly gentler on blood sugar. But for seniors, especially those with sensitive digestion, joint pain, or a tendency to experience nighttime muscle cramps, green apples may be doing more harm than good. Beneath their clean, green skin lies a compound that deserves closer scrutiny: malic acid. Malic acid is a naturally occurring organic acid that gives green apples their signature sourness. While it has been studied for its role in energy metabolism and even used therapeutically in certain fibromyalgia treatments, in older adults with sensitive gut linings or pre-existing inflammation, it can act as an irritant. As the gastrointestinal lining becomes more fragile with age, acidic foods like green apples can cause bloating, cramping, and even trigger inflammatory responses that extend beyond the digestive tract. For those already dealing with stiff joints or mild arthritis, malic acid may intensify existing discomfort, particularly in weight-bearing areas such as the hips and knees. But the impact doesn't stop at digestion. Green apples can also subtly disrupt sleep. Seniors who eat green apples in the evening may experience increased muscle tension or even nocturnal cramps. This isn't just a coincidence. The combination of malic acid and natural sugars can create metabolic shifts during sleep that lead to magnesium depletion, nerve sensitivity, and an increased risk of cramping, especially in the calves, feet, or thighs. For some, the result is waking up multiple times during the night with a deep ache or a sudden Charlie horse that interrupts restful sleep and leaves the muscles sore well into the morning. Take the case of Mr. Jim, a 70-year-old former runner who prided himself on his healthy habits. Every night before bed, he would slice up a green apple and eat it while reading. Over time, he began experiencing unexplained hip pain and tightness in his lower back that worsened overnight. His sleep became fragmented, and he often woke up feeling more fatigued than when he went to bed. Physical therapy provided only temporary relief. It wasn't until we evaluated his nighttime routine and removed the green apple from his evening diet, replacing it with a baked red apple sprinkled with ground flaxseed, that things began to change. Within a month, his nighttime discomfort faded, his sleep quality improved, and his hip mobility returned. So what's a better option? Red or golden apples that have been lightly baked are much easier on the digestive tract and significantly lower in malic acid. When paired with flax seeds, they provide fiber, anti-inflammatory omega-3s, and a steadier release of natural sugars, minimizing blood sugar fluctuations. This combination not only reduces the risk of cramping, but also supports gut health and joint lubrication, key areas of concern for seniors looking to maintain mobility and restful sleep. In the end, green apples aren't inherently harmful, but they may be mismatched for the aging body, especially when eaten frequently and at the wrong time of day. Understanding the subtle ways that even healthy foods interact with your body's current needs is the key to aging with strength, comfort, and resilience. And if a seemingly innocent green apple can disrupt your sleep and stiffen your joints, imagine what happens when you indulge in a fruit that delivers a concentrated blast of sugar directly to your bloodstream. That's exactly what we'll explore next in Chapter 7, Mango, the natural sugar bomb that's secretly draining your leg's strength. Mangoes are often thought of as nature's candy, soft, fragrant, and bursting with tropical sweetness. They're loaded with vitamins, particularly vitamin C and A, and contain fiber and antioxidants. But for seniors, especially those with blood sugar sensitivity, joint pain, or reduced insulin response, mangoes can quietly become one of the most inflammatory fruits on their plate. The very attribute that makes mangoes so delightful, their high natural sugar content, is what makes them potentially harmful to aging joints, circulation, and muscle function. At the heart of the issue is how mangoes impact blood sugar and insulin. A single medium-sized mango can contain up to 45 grams of natural sugar. While it's not processed sugar, the body reacts similarly, especially in older adults whose glucose regulation is less efficient. After consuming mango, blood sugar levels spike rapidly, leading to a surge of insulin. In younger people, insulin works efficiently to shuttle sugar into the cells. But in older bodies, particularly those with insulin resistance, that surge doesn't go as smoothly. The result: prolonged elevation of blood sugar, increased systemic inflammation, and greater oxidative stress on tissues, including the delicate structures of joints and capillaries in the legs. These inflammatory responses don't always show up as immediate symptoms. In fact, they're often subtle at first: a little tightness in the ankles, an unusual ache in the knees, or fatigue after walking short distances. Over time, however, the effects compound. Chronic high sugar intake, even from fruits like mango, can fuel the breakdown of collagen, slow circulation, and promote fluid retention in the lower extremities. For seniors, that means heavier legs, more swelling, and a greater risk of mobility loss. Consider the story of Mrs. Rose, a 71-year-old widow who decided to swap her usual afternoon cookie for a whole mango, thinking it would be a healthier choice. She enjoyed it daily, feeling virtuous about cutting out processed sugar. But within 2 months, she started experiencing pain in her hips and stiffness in her knees. She found herself using the walls for balance and eventually needed a cane for short walks. When we reviewed her diet and removed the daily mango, replacing it with half a papaya or a few slices of avocado, her symptoms improved dramatically. Within 4 weeks, her inflammation markers decreased and her mobility returned. The problem hadn't been that she was eating fruit, it was that she was unknowingly overwhelming her system with more sugar than it could safely handle. So what's a safer alternative for seniors craving something sweet and nutritious? Papaya and avocado offer excellent replacements. Papaya is low on the glycemic index, rich in anti-inflammatory enzymes like papain, and gentle on the digestive system. Avocado, though not traditionally considered a sweet fruit, is packed with healthy fats that support insulin regulation, reduce inflammation, and nourish joint tissues from the inside out. These fruits don't spike blood sugar and are far more compatible with the metabolic and circulatory needs of older adults. The key takeaway here is not to fear fruit, but to choose the right ones for your current stage of life. Mangoes may be delicious and natural, but their sugar load is simply too much for many seniors to process without consequences. Knowing how your body responds and adjusting accordingly can mean the difference between relying on a cane or walking freely, between chronic joint pain and daily comfort. And now that you've discovered the hidden dangers in these 7 seemingly innocent fruits, it's time to zoom out and bring the big picture together. Let's move into the final section. Conclusion: 7 fruits to rethink, 7 lessons to live stronger. 7 fruits, 1 costly lesson for lifelong leg strength. Here's the hard truth. The 7 fruits we've just explored, pineapple, banana, grapes, watermelon, orange, green apple, and mango, may seem harmless, even healthy on the surface. But for older adults, they can quietly rob strength from your legs, fuel inflammation, and accelerate the very discomfort you're working so hard to avoid. The aching joints, swollen ankles, or persistent fatigue you feel after walking might not be from aging alone, but from the fruit you're eating with full confidence that it's doing your body good. The lesson is clear: fruit isn't bad, it's just not one size fits all. What nourished you at 30 might work against you at 70. As we age, our bodies change, and our nutrition must evolve with it. It's not about cutting fruit out of your life. It's about choosing fruit that matches your metabolism, supports circulation, reduces inflammation, and fuels the strength you need to move freely and age with dignity. So what should you reach for instead? Berries like blueberries and raspberries help fight oxidative stress and boost microcirculation. Cherries can lower uric acid and reduce joint pain. Avocados nourish joints and stabilize blood sugar. Papaya offers powerful enzymes that soothe inflammation. And ripe pears provide fiber and sweetness without triggering blood sugar spikes. To make it easier, here's a simple 7-day fruit guide for stronger legs and a healthier body. Day 1, a handful of blueberries with breakfast. Day 2, half an avocado with a boiled egg for lunch. Day 3, sliced ripe pear with chia seeds in the afternoon. Day 4, a few cherries after dinner. Day 5, a bowl of papaya with lime in the morning. Day 6, mixed raspberries and walnuts as a midday snack. Day 7, baked apple with ground flaxseed in the evening. Let me ask you, if changing just one fruit could help you walk steadier, sleep better, or wake up without pain, would you be willing to try? Here's your challenge. Starting tomorrow, remove one fruit from your daily routine that may be working against your body and replace it with one that heals. Stick with it for just 7 days. Observe what changes. And when you feel that difference, big or small, come back and share your story in the comments below. Your experience could be the inspiration that helps someone else regain their strength, their independence, and their peace of mind.